Hey, this is Svetlana
and Benny
from Cosplay, and today we're going to show you
how we built Clorinde's sword, the Absolution from Genshin Impact.
As you know, we absolutely love Genshin Impact,
and we built a lot of costumes and props from it already.
So it's finally time
for another cosplay crafting video.
And this intro is totally not
awkward at all.
Yay!
Yay. And if you don't know what Genshin Impact is, and by now I honestly don't know how that's possible, it's a free-to-play open-world adventure game for PC, mobile and PlayStation.
Genshin Impact offers a beautiful world for you to explore and a constantly evolving storyline. The latest patch 4.7 includes Clorinde, a new electro character from Fontaine. She looks absolutely gorgeous, is super strong and has an awesome background story.
If you want to check out the game and support our channel,
just click on the link in the video description down below.
Thank you so much! And since I'm the one who actually built the sword,
you also have the honor to explain how you made it.
So let's start crafting!
Crafting! Yay!
Okay, let's get started. Here's the new character Clorinde in all her glory.
She looks so awesome!
My goal for her sword, which you can see here, was to build it as closely to the original reference as possible. The only problem was that at the time I made the sword, she was not in the game yet. I didn't have this footage, there was no official 3D model, barely any pictures on the internet, and the two 3D models I found online were not close enough to the reference for me. So I kinda had to make my own 3D model. So as always, I used a program called Blender for this. The whole process took me almost 3 days, which was honestly more than I expected, so I won't go into too much detail on the modeling process in this video. However, if you want to learn how to make 3D models yourself, I do have a Blender tutorial which you can find in the info box in the corner right now. So please go ahead and watch that if you want to learn this process. But basically the gist of it is that I placed a good reference picture of the sword first, and then used simple geometric shapes like cylinders and cubes to build a rough version of the sword. Then I added more and more layers and shapes on top to get closer and closer to my reference. I added more subdivisions to increase the resolution, told the program which edges needed to be round and soft, combined, deformed and subtracted shapes, and worked my way closer and closer to the final model. It's a fun yet time-consuming process, but all in all I'm very happy how it turned out. So what do you think of my finished model? I've been using Blender on and off for a few years now, and I'm really happy to see my skills in this field are still improving. Okay, so the model was finished now, but I still didn't know how large the sword was going to be. For this I always let Svetlana guess the size first and then print a screenshot on paper to see if it checks out. 110 cm for a sword sounded logical to her, and looking at Svetlana holding it, it seemed to be a good guess. After applying the scale to my Blender model, I could now finally begin to slice the blade into smaller pieces and send it over to our 3D printers. Since our Zortrex machines can only print a maximum height of 18 cm, I had to make quite a few cuts. It's really important here to slice your model at the right spots. The goal is always to minimize support material and printing time, but for some parts it's tricky to figure out the right placements, so I ended up having to print a few parts multiple times. While results were great for straight pieces like the handle and blade, the middle section here for example had some damage at the bottom, which I remedied by placing it upside down instead. As you can see here, I also plan to add a 6mm fiberglass rod to the center of all my parts. This does not only help the overall stability of the sword, but also makes it a lot easier to line up and glue everything together. A metal rod works as well, of course. All in all, the final sword was separated into 26 individual pieces. I had to print a few things again, so it was maybe 30 parts in total. And with an average printing time of maybe 5 hours per part, the whole process took around 150 hours. Divided by 2, since we have 2 printers, we had around 75 hours or 3 days of non-stop 3D printing. Crazy, right? 3D printing is definitely not a fast technique, and I think in 3 days Svetlana would probably already be done with a foam version of this sword. But anyway, it's always very cool to see your self-made 3D model come to life before your own eyes. Never gets old. Then it was time to glue everything together and sand it nice and shiny. The glue we used to stick all parts together here was ABS slushy. This is basically just ABS support material melted in acetone. It cures pretty fast, but still allows enough time to move the pieces around a bit, which makes it really nice to work with. For some other parts that either needed a bit of pressure or had to hold instantly, we used regular superglue. This one works even better when you spray it with an accelerator. Right, after all the gluing came all the sanding. To help out, we actually invited Ali Cosplay. He just loves sanding 3D prints. I usually go over everything with a small triangle sander first, and only then move on to sandpaper and a sanding sponge. Make sure to wear a proper FFP2 mask to protect your lungs during this process. Gluing together 3D prints to me always feels like an advanced version of Lego. Only that you made all your own pieces and they do not have any color yet. Just sanding the blade was not enough, however. Since it consists out of multiple slices, spraying paint all over it now would show all the glue seams that were still visible. For this we use a sandable spot putty. It's applied either with a scrap of foam or a piece of paper and then cures for a moment. Afterwards we sand it away again and repeat the process until all the seams were smooth as a corgi butt. Wet sanding gives you an even smoother finish and reduces the amount of fine dust in the air. Then, after we were done, we sprayed the finished pieces with a coat of grey automotive spray primer. This helped to show where the surface still looked rough or if any glue seams were still visible. Now we wet sanded one more time and filled in any remaining glue seams until Clorinde's sword was finally clean enough to be painted. I always like to do a test assembly of all the unpainted parts, just to see how it looked so far. But since it's better for some pieces to remain separated for painting, I only glued on what could already stay together, and then temporarily attached the rest with a ton of duct tape. I know it's not super elegant, but check out how good it looks already. This will be nice. Okay, time for paint. Since the sword needed to look super clean, we only used the airbrush here and a tiny bit of dry brushing. There shouldn't be any visible brush strokes here, it just wouldn't fit. I always do a little paper test of all the colors I plan to use and only then start applying it to my actual prop. It was also important to already decide on the order in which the different colors would be applied. It's easier to mask off large areas than tiny details, so the order is important. The blade then first got a base coat in white and some light grey shadows around the edges. It does take some steady hands to draw even gradients with an airbrush, so make sure to practice on a piece of paper first. Next, I had to mask off the white areas using frog tape. Here you can see what I mean by the order of colors. The white here is a lot easier to mask off than the small middle part. Now came a layer of black, which I also applied to a few other pieces of the sword that also needed to be dark. Then came a trick I learned from Ali while he was here helping us out. I used a bit of lighter grey paint and a fine makeup brush and slightly dry brushed brighter grey edges on top of my black. It's very important here to remove almost all the color from the brush before you start painting with it. Only then will you get the right effect. Looks very good though. Since I didn't actually have the shape of purple that we needed, we mixed one ourselves and applied it to the crystal looking pieces as well as all the gems on the sword. Then Ali dry brushed the swirly crystal off the handle to make it look more interesting, and then I added a few more colorful dots, which made it look even more magical. The whole project was a big collaboration, and we thank Ali for his time and his painting advice. Make sure to give him a follow, he's an amazing artist. Links to his channels are in the video description. As you might guess, a whole lot more masking came next. Another layer of black, and some blue gradients on top for the handle. The middle part then got some brighter dry brushing as well, really makes all the difference. Masking off this part was a real hassle, but there was really no way around this. Some white on top, a few grey shadows, and after some unmasking, the swirly middle part was finished. Looked good, right? Just a few more golden details. To get the right tone of gold, we decided to use a brown base underneath. I believe this is something a lot of people don't think about, but it's really important what base color you put underneath your metallic paints. Gold can look very different depending on if you put black, white, brown or green underneath it. Now this is very nice and shiny. When masking and unmasking, it's also very important to not let your tape stay on for too long. We usually try to unmask everything before we go to bed, because the longer it stays on, the more likely it is that your paint underneath will get damaged. So just keep this in mind. Okay, now a layer of satin spray varnish over everything for protection, and we were ready for the final and this time permanent assembly. We mainly used regular superglue to stick the parts of the blade together, but for the fiberglass rod inside, we decided to use a 5-minute epoxy instead. There's always a small risk that the superglue would cure before the rod was completely inside, so we just wanted to make sure we had some extra working time. Almost there! The final and also trickiest part to glue were the two handle guard pieces. As you can see here, we placed a small metal rod inside for extra stability. And this was the last piece. Finally, everything was assembled. I'm happy the paint job turned out so clean, and I'm really pumped to see my 3D model come to life in this fashion. Let me know in the comments what you think. Also, if you want to print and paint your own version of this sword, I uploaded a 3D model to our website. 3D printing props for cosplay is a ton of fun and easier than you think. And since we always get a lot of questions about how to use 3D modeling and printing for cosplay, we wrote a book about it, which you can find on kamuicosplay.com. It has all the necessary steps to get started. It's very beginner friendly, so if you want to learn, just check it out. It's available as an instant download or as a printed version on kamuicosplay.com. And now let's continue. But we were not done yet. As you might remember, Clorinde has actually 2 weapons. Next to her sword, she also has a Flintlock Pistol, and yes, we obviously also wanted to build this one as well. Otherwise, her weapons wouldn't be complete. Lucky for me though, this time there was already a nice 3D model I found from Cattail 3D on colts3d.com. I'll put a link to it in the video description for you. Getting good painting references for the pistol, however, was very tough. There were basically no images available yet, and the 3D model was also just based on a few screenshots. I think the modeler has even updated his model by now, so this is still the old version you see here. Anyway, since we just went through all the steps to get the sword printed and painted, I'll only show you the highlights for the pistol. After printing all pieces, again in ABS, we sat down and glued it together into 3 main body parts: the grip, the barrel and the frame. It actually made a lot more sense to keep some parts separated for painting because we saved a lot of time masking later. But since we're content creators and want to get a good shot of the unpainted piece, here it is already temporarily assembled by double-sided tape. Looking good, right? I'm almost sad we're not making the entire Clorinde cosplay. I do like her design a lot. Okay, now to the painting. We used almost the same colors here as we did for the sword. So mainly black, purple and some gold for the details. I'll make sure to put links to all the tools and paints we used in the video description. While I don't think the brand of airbrush, tape or paint matters a lot, I think it's nice to use products where you've actually seen them leading to good results. Okay, so after a lot of masking, spraying, masking some more, and spraying even more and then unmasking again, I grabbed a tiny brush and painted the little golden swirls on the grip by hand. I think this detail actually looks different in the latest version, but when I painted it, I didn't have any other references, so I'm just going to leave it like this. A bit of superglue to connect the finished pieces, the barrel, the frame and the flint, plus a good coat of spray varnish, and Clorinde's flintlock was finished as well. Turned out pretty nice, right? Let me know in the comments below what you like more, the sword or the pistol. In total, we worked around 1 week on the sword, which includes the 3D modeling, and spent around 3 to 4 days on the pistol. I hope you enjoyed watching the process.
Thanks so much for watching, and we hope you really enjoyed the video.
Clorinde's sword and flintlock was a really fun project, and it even helped me to improve my 3D sculpting skills. Thanks again to AliProps for all his support during this project.
Also, if you have any questions, please let us know in the comments down below.
Thanks again to Hoyoverse for their trust in this amazing collaboration.
Genshin Impact is absolutely full of gorgeous designs, and it's always so much fun to bring something to life from the game.
That's right. And also thanks so much to all of our Patreons. You are the best.
The best. Also, and finally, last but not least, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos.
Hope to see you again soon, and bye-bye.
Bye bye!